think it's perhaps particularly the way we think about knowledge in terms of development discourse. I think one of the things that continues to surprise me is the theory of development and in terms of its actual practice. And perhaps a more sort of relevant example is around evaluative thinking in terms of what have we learned about development and how can we use this learning to inform development practice. And I think that it seems to me that there is this gap between what we've learned about development and what we're able to apply in terms of how it needs to go. And evaluative thinking is problematic in the sense that we're constantly talking about the importance of learning from people who are perceived to be beneficiaries of development. But in the practice, their thinking about development doesn't seem to help us in terms of understanding what we need to do differently. So this whole notion of downward accountability seems to be largely theoretical. We're still not able to come full circle in terms of looking to these people and using their knowledge as a foundational knowledge for understanding development differently. I think perhaps the gap that seems to be almost dominant in many different development areas and development sectors is this constant one between the policy side of things and the practice. You know, there's this kind of science policy interface. I think it's is still a big gap. It's still this huge gulf that we still haven't been able to sort of move from lessening that gap and benefiting from the hindsight of development practice. The reason why I say that this is still a problem is there is this implicit argument sometimes that science in itself is sufficient to address development problems. And in many ways, what I see sometimes is that science can be at least both a problem and a solution. In ways that science can sometimes heighten and amplify development inequalities, iniquities. So it's how do we not just sort of see science as the panacea, but move to other interpretations and aspects of development, in terms of social knowledge, practice, culture, as equally important in shaping our understanding of development practices. So I think that we need to find ways of getting cleverer, not just in looking for the scientific fix or the technological fix, but in understanding some of the complex interaction between society and nature, and in understanding how people are able to adapt to different dynamics, and different processes, and how they come out of those processes and are more resilient. So I think that gap is one that we need to find a way of lessening. Perhaps one of the things I should have said before, which I didn't say, was, for me, the whole issue of agriculture. And it's in a way, I'm surprised still by this fact that, after talking a lot about agricultural intensification, issues around production, and sometimes even the failure of that, the failure of agricultural policies and systems, how we've come back full circle to that very notion of agricultural intensification as probably a way out. So I think in terms of concerns that development practitioners should have over the next 50 years is how to find solutions within the agricultural sector that will actually benefit people that are sort of resource dependent, that are dependent on this sector for their, their livelihoods and goods and services. So I think that that is going to be a challenge, and I think that we can get better at this if we adopt an integrative thinking. So that the benefit of doing this is that we're not just focusing on agriculture per se, but looking at the intersection between agriculture and water, agriculture and energy, and how we break these knowledge silos by integrating the three sectors. So I think that is the scale of the challenge. To break these knowledge silos. And see how society can benefit from all of these sectors in a way that would address most of their economic, social, and economic problems.